All right. Hi there, everybody. I want to thank you again for joining us for another one of our checking in segments. Today, I'm really excited. I've got one of my good friends, Lindy Norris, on the line. And Lindy has a really interesting story to share. What we're trying to do through these conversations is just share good stories that are going on in the community right now. There's a lot of great people doing great things. And so I really wanted to share Lindy's story and what her and a group of her friends were able to accomplish in the community. So those who don't know Lindy, she's the Director of Marketing and Public Affairs at New Flyer. Lindy's also been part of a number of startups in Winnipeg and served on a number of boards, won many awards, founder of Athena Leadership. I could go on and on about Lindy, but she probably wouldn't like that so much. So we'll probably just get right into it. So Lindy, I really want to get you on because I want to talk about Community Shirt and such an awesome thing that you and a bunch of friends did. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about Community Shirt and what it was all about.
Sure. So first of all, thanks for having me. It's always great to come on and talk about things we're doing in the community and also for your ongoing passion and leadership in the community. I see it all the time, and I would consider you another person who's maybe a serial giver in that respect. So it's always really nice to have these conversations. So the Community Shirt happened a group of us were actually on a group text one weekend, all of us working from home and all of us feeling the physical restraints of distancing measures. And the idea for Community Shirt actually came from Candace Hodgins. And she texted a few of us, there were 6 of us in this group, and said, I really want to do something to help the community, but I can't quite figure it out. How can we do this from our homes? And so through a variety of conversations, we came up with the Community Shirt, which essentially is selling shirts with all profit going to Winnipeg Harvest. So Winnipeg Harvest, for those that don't know, is Manitoba's largest food bank. And as of right now, and due to the pandemic that is currently happening, it's experiencing an 80% increase in demand and a 30%, sorry, let me switch that around. A 30% increase in demand and an 80% decrease in donations. So it's a pretty significant hit for an organization like that not only feeds people in Winnipeg, but all across Manitoba. So it's really the heartbeat of food support for thousands of people who rely on them. And so through this, and in a matter of 3 days, we built a website, we built a brand, we built everything and launched it just a couple days later after having this text conversation. The long and the short of it is that we're selling shirts. The premise is community isn't canceled. So it's a logo on the front of the shirt. And it's really about uniting the community during a time of hardship, because a lot of things are canceled right now: concerts, school, sporting events, regular get-togethers. But the one thing we know for Manitobans for sure, and the one thing that will always stay true, is that community is never canceled for us. And so we're a resilient bunch, and we're certainly a kind bunch. And we know that Manitobans are generous by nature and always looking to help out for their own. And so over a matter of 10 days, we sold over 800 shirts. We'd initially worried about maybe selling 100 in the first week. And so we definitely surpassed our expectations. And through that, we raised $12,500. So that money.
How many shirts did you sell?
Over 800.
Holy smokes, that's amazing.
It was absolutely incredible. And it's really such a pinnacle of the generosity of Manitobans who are always looking out for others in the community. And so $12,500 for Winnipeg Harvest, for perspective, will buy probably about or just over 10,000 pounds of food. And so that becomes food support for many people who right now are experiencing employment and income instability. And it's going to make a pretty big difference in their lives. It's very special. And so what actually transpired about a week later, after we'd closed the sales of the shirts, is we learned about a radiothon that a series of local radio stations was hosting on a Wednesday, I believe. And the premise was that 2 very generous and anonymous Winnipeg donors were going to match every dollar donated to Winnipeg Harvest up to $150,000. And so with the consent of Winnipeg Harvest and with the consent and support of those donors, we actually made our pledge to Winnipeg Harvest that day, and that $12,500 became $25,000. So it was a really, really incredible turn of events. I think in about 2 or 3 weeks' time, and we're really, really excited to get these shirts out into the community, have people start wearing them, share the message of community isn't canceled, and really continue to unite those around them.
I think that's such a such an amazing story because, like, I think I mean, I always say this. I think there's so many great people in this city in particular, and across the country. But I think that this is one of those times where great people are rising to the occasion to do these amazing things, and so I love these stories, and there's lots of them out there. But I absolutely love these stories, and you're right. I mean, I've talked to people. I'm involved with United Way and a number of other organizations. And we're seeing that, yeah, everyday people are struggling in their everyday lives, but there was people that were already struggling who are struggling that much more. And so these types of organizations are just so important right now. So like maybe I know because knowing you, I know how important this type of thing is to you. But like maybe you can share a little bit more about why this was so important for you to be a part of it, and maybe elaborate with your friends as well, because I know the group of friends that you did this with are all extremely passionate people. But I'd love to hear more about that too.
Of course. So the group of 6 of us, as I said, the idea came from Candace Hodgins, but the 6 of us involved were Lindsay Creedon, Lindsay Galanders, myself, Laura Whitting, and Kayla Dickin. And I would say these are people also who are serial community leaders and participants, always looking to give back. And over the past decade, we've all worked together on a variety of initiatives, whether they were nonprofit events, boards, or committees. And so for all of us, the premise of a rising tide lifts all boats is really, really important. And it so holds true in our community, because you can really only be as good of a community as some of your most struggling individuals. And so we have to do what we can to help them, and we have to do what we can to lift those in need and give them all the tools that they could use to be a successful contributor to the community. But because especially of the pandemic right now, everyone is in need of help of some degree. And so there are a lot of wonderful organizations in the community doing a lot of great work. United Way, of course, is one of them that I know both of us are very passionate about. But there are people that need our help, and we have the privilege and the ability to do that. And even more so from our homes, it's absolutely incredible. And so what we can do is at the very least try and help nourish others in our community, so that the last thing they're worried about right now for themselves and their families is being able to eat. So that was a really big driver behind the Community Shirt Initiative. But by and large, the involvement in the community really has to do with the ability to help, the second nature of Manitobans to help, and the importance of giving back because you can. And so I've heard it referred many times to giving your time, talent, or treasure. And so you may not have the money to be able to invest in an organization, but you may have a couple hours to volunteer and go down to that organization when you can, or you may have talents that you can also lend, whether you might be a graphic designer or an accountant or a lawyer or a communicator. Nonprofit organizations are operating on very lean budgets, and a couple hours of your time in an area where you're the subject matter expert can make a world of a difference to them. And especially right now, even though we can't physically be together, a lot of these organizations can use help. So anyone who's thinking about helping, I would encourage to reach out to an organization that they're either passionate about or already know, and see how they might be able to lift them during such a difficult time.
I think that's such a great point, because you're right. I mean, not everybody can give money or afford to do that, but there's so many good organizations that could use. Like, I know a marketing company, Sherpa Marketing, is doing an adopt a business program right now, which I think is awesome. Again, they're using their talents to help organizations out. And you're right. There's just such a great need right now, but also a great opportunity for people to help each other out. And I think that it shouldn't be lost on people that nobody in a successful position really gets there without the support of the community around them. Like, nobody gets to being a wealthy individual or having a really strong business, a successful business, without the community supporting them or the society that we live in. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So in my opinion, we all owe it back. And I think I love the line you used, rising tide raises all boats. I use that line all the time. Because it's so true. And I think that we're seeing that more and more right now, especially with Main Street businesses really struggling. I mean, I think they're going to be seeing such challenges over the next year, maybe 2 years. And so I think that holds true even more now. So, like you talked about like what the impact is with Winnipeg Harvest and all that, with the dollars amount. I'm just curious, because I have my own thoughts about this, but I'm curious what you think we need to be doing as the community still going forward, and what we need to do to help each other out to get everybody back on their feet, if you have any thoughts about that as well.
Oh, it's a loaded question, Grant. Well, I of course have a lot of thoughts, but I think one of the easiest is to vote local with your dollars. So a lot of the businesses in our communities, small, medium-sized businesses, are really, really struggling right now. And as you know, not all of them are eligible for some of the relief funding. And if we want to see the vibrance of our downtown continue, then we need to be able to help some of these small stores or businesses keep on their feet the second they're back open, because they're the pulse of our community. They're the places we meet. They're the places we count on, whether it's to gather or eat or celebrate. And that's how we need to start. But beyond that, going back to my earlier comment about reaching out to organizations, whether a charity or a nonprofit, and asking, how can I help during this time? That's a pretty big impact in terms of investing $1, in terms of investing an hour of your time, or just being able to lend your talent. So I think that's a big piece too, because a lot of these organizations are touching hundreds, if not thousands of people in our community that really, really need our help. And there is a sincere degree of joy and fulfillment and satisfaction that comes from being able to give to your community and know that you did just one little thing that helps somebody else in their life, even if just for a very brief moment. So that's kind of my thoughts in terms of how we can get these businesses through. It's complicated. It's going to be long term. There's of course more of an immediate need, a medium term need as well, and then the long term, which will be years in the making. But being able to support our community with how we invest and make our choices day to day as we start to get back out there is going to be one of the biggest impacts we can have.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. I mean, I think that it is going to require real effort to get the economy back going, especially small business. But I'm optimistic personally. I mean, I think that like I said, there's a lot of good people out there, but it's going to require people like you and me and people who are able to get back out there and start consuming and spending money again as well, and supporting these businesses. We've been trying to encourage our staff and our clients to support their local restaurants. Like if you love a restaurant, now more than ever, order from that restaurant if you can. Every little bit is helping them out right now, or they're a clothing store, you name it, right? So yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I have one last question for you, and it's kind of off script, but just going back to community shirt, why shirts? Just how did that come about with your conversations?
That's a great question. So the idea again came from Caddis Hodgins, and so I think she had saw some inspiration on Instagram and saw that, hey, like a shirt's something that we can get done and that people can actually wear and share the message proudly of the fact our community isn't canceled and it never will be. So that I think was a really big driving impetus of it, because hopefully long after this pandemic passes, there will still be pride in wearing a shirt that says community isn't canceled. And it of course has the outline of Manitoba on it with a little heart where the city of Winnipeg is. So I think the unity behind that, the pride in our community, the passion for helping others, that's a really big piece of essentially being a walking billboard for that very intrinsic message we hold as Manitobans and the resilience that comes through it. And I do think too that it'll also be something that maybe serves as a bit of a memory and a memento in the months and years to come. So we are getting the shirts made right now. They're going to be delivered shortly. So never thought we'd be in a very small side business of making shirts during a pandemic, but they're almost done, and we're really excited to get I think it's 812 t-shirts out to those in Manitoba, and a couple in the US and a couple across Canada as well.
Yeah, so neat. And I think it was different because you weren't just asking for money just straight off donations, but something that people, you're right, could have pride in and wear around. I think that's such a neat concept. So anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're busy, but I want to thank you so much for doing this with me and sharing the story. Thanks for everything you do in the community, and I'm happy to share this with everybody I know. So thanks again, Lindy. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, take care.